Greetings, Ascending Starseed. I am Kaya Nexus, Pleiadian emissary of the Council of the Five Sisters, and today I bring a realignment transmission. Your frequencies of abundance are awakening, and the universe asks that you listen with an open heart. What is arriving to you is sacred, and it requires inner silence. If you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing. Most people who watch are not subscribed yet. Starseed, if you've felt time speeding up, if your sleep has become strange and symbolic, if your heart has been pulled toward a life you can't fully explain yet, this is not random. This is the signature of a timeline decision already in motion inside your field. Since 2020, humanity has been pressed through a corridor of pressure where the old identity could not survive. You were not punished by intensity. You were initiated by it. And here is the part most people miss. The initiation was never only global. It was personal. It was designed to force one question into your nervous system, into your relationships, into your money patterns, into your voice. Will you choose fear-based survival or frequency-based sovereignty? Because your future is not decided by what happens out there. Your future is decided by which vibration you feed consistently, especially when no one is watching. In this transmission, I will show you why the years 2020 to 2025 accelerated the awakening, why 2026 opens a phase of unraveling and revelation, and how the next wave builds a new Earth trajectory through crystalline biology, light body activation, and sacred geometric coherence. Stay with me, because what comes next is the part your intuition has been whispering about, and it changes everything. The years that followed 2020 were not merely a sequence of events. They were a planetary initiation chamber, a pressure field designed to expose what was unconscious, unhealed, and misaligned. Many of you sensed it immediately. Even if you could not name it, you felt that the collective reality had entered a new octave, one where denial could no longer remain comfortable. From the Pleiadian perspective, initiation is never about punishment. Initiation is about accelerated choice. When energy intensifies, it compresses time. What might have taken 10 years of subtle lessons gets condensed into months. This is why so many of you felt that your emotions were amplified, your relationships became sharp mirrors, and your inner shadows rose to the surface with unusual speed. It was not life attacking you. It was the universe asking, what is real in you and what is costume? As the Pleiadiano transmit, the Earth field began to hold higher photonic pressure, and the human system responded like a crystal struck by sound, vibrating, resonating, revealing fractures. This is why certain friendships dissolved, careers felt suddenly hollow, and old coping strategies stopped working. The matrix of control, fear, division, false urgency, dependency, could not remain stable under rising frequency. And you, Starseed, were not meant to remain stable in the old. You were meant to become true. Consider a simple everyday example. A person who once tolerated disrespect because it felt safer than loneliness. After 2020, that tolerance becomes unbearable. They start waking at 3 a.m., heart pounding, with a clear inner message. I cannot betray myself anymore. That message is not dramatic. It is alignment. And alignment is the doorway to the new timeline. Some of you experienced this through the body. Sudden fatigue, pressure in the head, ringing in the ears, heat waves moving through the spine. In higher teachings, these can be signs of the nervous system recalibrating to hold more light, especially when medical causes have been ruled out and the symptoms come in energetic waves. The body becomes the altar where transformation occurs, and the old density rises to be cleared. Let me tell you a story. A woman, let's call her Mira, worked in a structured, logical environment. Her life looked fine externally. But in 2021, she began having vivid dreams of blue geometric corridors and a voice repeating, "Speak the truth. Speak the truth." She ignored it at first, thinking it was stress. Yet every time she stayed silent in a moment that required honesty, her chest would tighten. The body became the messenger. Finally, she stopped performing and started living. She ended a relationship that drained her. She shifted her work towards service, and something subtle happened. The world did not collapse. Her frequency stabilized, synchronicities increased, support arrived. This is how initiation works. When you pass the test, reality reorganizes around your new coherence. But initiation always includes a fork in the road. The collective chaos created two options. One path says, cling to the old, control everything, fear uncertainty. The other path says, I will surrender what is false and become a clean channel for what is real. The second path is not passive. It is courageous. It requires daily choices: what you consume, what you believe, how you speak, how you breathe, how you respond when triggered. And this is where the timeline split begins, not as science fiction, but as a vibrational sorting. Two people can live in the same city and inhabit entirely different realities. One sees only threat. The other sees challenge as a portal. One tightens into suspicion. The other expands into discernment. The outer world may look similar, but the inner world generates a different future. And as you cross deeper into this initiation, something even more intense began to happen. Your life started removing what was out of alignment without asking permission, and it was preparing you for the next phase. If the initiation was the fire, alignment was the forging. From 2020 to 2025, many of you discovered a sacred and sometimes uncomfortable truth. In higher frequency fields, you cannot fake your life. You can no longer speak one thing and live another. You can no longer think one thought, feel another emotion, and take a third action while expecting peace. The dissonance becomes too loud. Alignment is the meeting point of thought, word, action, and energetic integrity. It is not perfection. It is honesty. And honesty is magnetic to the new Earth trajectory because it creates coherence in the field. When you become coherent, your manifestation becomes cleaner, not because you control the universe, but because you stop contradicting your own signal. As the Pleiadians transmit, authenticity is a frequency. That means the universe responds to what you are, not what you claim. This is why so many of you found yourselves mysteriously losing interest in habits that once soothed you: doom scrolling, numbing entertainment, gossip, drama cycles. In the old world, those patterns were common. In a rising field, they become heavy. Your nervous system says no, your soul says enough. And you begin to crave what is real: clean food, clean conversation, clean intention, clean love. This is also why relationships shifted. Some people in your life could not meet you in the new frequency, not because they are bad, but because resonance matters. A radio cannot play two stations at once. When your field changes, your reality reorganizes. That can be painful. Yet it is also liberation. Now, parallel to personal alignment, you witnessed collective structures wobbling. When a system is built on distortion, rising light does not attack it. Light simply reveals it. In many of your personal lives, this looked like institutions losing credibility, narratives contradicting themselves, leadership appearing fragmented, and collective certainty dissolving. Whether you interpret this politically, psychologically, or energetically, the deeper lesson is the same. External authority is not your savior. Sovereignty is the curriculum. Here is the practical application. When the world feels unstable, the old pattern is to panic and demand certainty. The new pattern is to stabilize your own field first. You do that through daily practices that anchor coherence: nervous system regulation, slow breathing, walking, hydration, sleep discipline. Energetic hygiene, limiting toxic inputs, cleansing your space, sound frequencies, grounding. Truth practice, speaking what is real gently but clearly, refusing to betray yourself. Sacred geometry focus. Visualizing a golden sphere around your heart, a Merkaba alignment, or a flower of life grid beneath your feet to stabilize. Let me share a second story. A man, call him Elias, felt his career collapsing in 2022. His first reaction was fear. He tried to force outcomes, but every forced door closed. Finally, he chose alignment instead of control. He began each morning with one question. What is the most truthful next step? Not the safest, not the fastest, the truest. He took a small training course. He started helping others. Within months, he met people who felt like family, souls he had never known in this lifetime, yet instantly recognized. This is how the family of light reunites, through aligned action. But alignment also demands surrender. Many of you were asked to release what no longer matched you. That surrender is not weakness. It is spiritual intelligence. It is the ability to trust the unknown because you trust your own frequency. And when enough individuals choose alignment at once, the collective field reaches a threshold where hidden layers begin surfacing faster than people can rationalize. The ebook, The Pleiadian Map of Personal Transmutation, a profound guide that reveals how to raise your frequency, purify old patterns, and activate your true multidimensional identity. This map teaches you how to move through the 7 Pleiadian phases of energetic transmutation, using practical techniques, realignment exercises, vibrational protocols, and consciousness expansion rituals that accelerate your spiritual evolution. Attention, limited edition. The link to get yours is in the first pinned comment. As you step into 2026, the energy shifts from initiation into unraveling. If initiation forges the individual, unraveling purifies the collective narrative. This is the phase where what has been hidden, emotionally, socially, institutionally, begins to rise to the surface, not to create despair, but to create clarity. Because no new earth can be built on distortion. A higher timeline requires a higher foundation. In unraveling, many people experience emotional whiplash. One day they feel hope, the next day they feel outrage. Disbelief turns to anger, anger turns to grief, and grief, when alchemized, turns to liberation. This is not failure. This is detox. The collective psyche cannot heal what it refuses to see. As the Pleiadiano transmit, light does not negotiate with illusion. Light reveals. That revelation can show up as disclosures, scandals, sudden shifts in public narratives, or personal awakenings where someone realizes, I have been living inside a story that is not true. This can happen in government, finance, media, education, medicine, and also in families, where generational secrets come into the open. Now listen carefully. The purpose is not to generate paranoia. The purpose is to generate discernment. Discernment is the calm intelligence that sees clearly without collapsing into fear. A sovereign being does not need to demonize. A sovereign being simply refuses to be manipulated. And you, Starseed, have a role here. Those who awaken earlier become stabilizers for those awakening later. You may find friends and relatives calling you with sudden existential questions. They may say, I don't know what to believe anymore. Your job is not to flood them with theories. Your job is to hold them in frequency. Speak gently, offer grounding. Remind them that confusion is temporary. Truth is stabilizing, even when it is uncomfortable at first. Here is a practical method for navigating unraveling. Stay in the body first. When shocking information appears, breathe before reacting. Separate data from emotional programming. Ask, what is fact? What is interpretation? What is fear? Choose coherence daily. Hydration, sunlight, movement, silence. Community anchoring. Speak with a small circle of emotionally mature people. Avoid chaotic echo chambers. Let me tell you a story from the subtle realms. A young woman, call her Naya, felt intense anxiety whenever she watched the news. She thought she was too sensitive. In 2026, she realized sensitivity was her gift, but it needed boundaries. She began turning off the noise and tuning into her own inner channel. She practiced a heart-centered technique. Place one hand on the heart, one on the lower belly, and breathe until the mind quiets. She asked, "What is my guidance?" The guidance was simple. Hold love. Speak truth. Build locally. Her anxiety dissolved, not because the world became perfect, but because her frequency became stable. And that stability becomes contagious. When enough individuals refuse to be thrown into fear, the unraveling becomes a sacred cleansing rather than a collective breakdown. Yes, the world can look chaotic. But this is the chaos of birth, not the chaos of death. The old scaffolding collapses so something cleaner can be built. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button now and tell us in the comments how this echoed in your consciousness. And just as the collective begins to process earthly revelations, another doorway opens, one that expands humanity's identity beyond the planet itself. Beyond social revelations, 2026 and the years following carry the frequency of cosmic remembrance. For a long time, many of you have felt an inner knowing that humanity is not alone, that consciousness is not confined to Earth, and that your soul's history is far larger than your current biography. In the unraveling phase, that inner knowing moves closer to the surface of mainstream awareness, not as fantasy, but as an expanding frame. As the Pleiadians transmit, disclosure is not a single dramatic moment. It is a gradual acclimatization of the nervous system to a larger reality. Humanity must be prepared emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually to integrate the truth of star civilizations, advanced intelligences, and multidimensional contact. Otherwise, the shock would fracture the psyche instead of expanding it. This is why disclosure often comes in waves: increased sightings, leaked documents, cultural softening, conversations that were once taboo becoming normal, and personal experiences that can no longer be dismissed. For some, it will be a relief, confirmation of what their intuition always whispered. For others, it may feel destabilizing at first. And again, the role of awakened souls is to hold the bridge. But there is something even more intimate than external evidence. There is the awakening of memory. Many of you will begin remembering lifetimes in Lemuria, Atlantis, or star systems like Lyra, Sirius, and Arcturus, not as escapism, but as activation codes. These memories often arrive through dreams, meditation, sudden emotional recognition when you see certain symbols, or a profound pull toward sacred geometry. You may find yourself drawn to patterns like Merkaba, light vehicle geometry, balance of polarities, flower of life, template of creation, harmonic structure, Metatron's cube, interconnectedness of dimensional forms, golden ratio spirals, organic intelligence embedded in matter. Why? Because geometry speaks to your multidimensional mind. It bypasses linear doubt and awakens cellular remembrance. When you contemplate sacred geometry, you're not learning something new. You're remembering what your soul already knows. Here's a grounded example. A person who never cared about spirituality suddenly feels overwhelmed in a museum, standing in front of an ancient pattern carved in stone. Tears rise. The chest opens. They can't explain why. That's not irrational. That is frequency recognition. The body remembers before the mind can interpret. Now, cosmic disclosure also includes the possibility of suppressed breakthroughs becoming more accessible, cleaner energy approaches, advanced healing insights, consciousness-based technologies. Whether these arrive quickly or gradually, the deeper meaning is liberation from the idea that suffering and scarcity are normal. In higher frequencies, humanity begins to evolve past the need for constant struggle. But the most important disclosure is internal. You are a multidimensional being, and your perception can expand. You begin to recognize guidance, synchronicities, and subtle contact through symbols, inner knowing, and resonance. Are these truths expanding your perspective? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. And as your identity expands beyond Earth, your body itself begins to change, because biology is not separate from consciousness. One of the most profound teachings in this cycle is that ascension is not only a spiritual idea, it is a biological transformation. As the planetary frequency rises, the human body begins a recalibration from dense survival-based programming toward a more luminous, coherent state. Many teachings describe this as a shift toward crystalline biology, not meaning your body becomes literal crystal, but that it becomes more structured for light conduction, coherence, and higher sensory perception. From 2026 to 2030, this process accelerates for those aligned with the higher timeline. You may notice heightened intuition, stronger empathy, clearer dream messages, and increased sensitivity to environments, foods, and people. This is why some of you can no longer tolerate places that felt normal before. Your field is refining. As the Pleiadians transmit, what humans called junk DNA was never junk. It contains dormant potentials, templates for expanded perception and subtle communication. As these potentials awaken, abilities that once seemed rare become more common. Telepathic moments with loved ones, spontaneous healing responses, the ability to sense truth in a conversation without being told. But this awakening requires responsibility. A heightened system needs clean inputs. If you overload it with fear-based media, chaotic communities, and constant stress chemistry, the awakening feels like anxiety. If you nourish it with grounding, hydration, breathwork, and heart coherence, the awakening feels like clarity and empowerment. Here is an everyday miracle that many of you will recognize. A person is about to make an old, self-sabotaging choice. Suddenly, time slows. They feel a pause in the chest. A gentle inner voice says, "Not this. Choose differently." That pause is sovereignty. That pause is evolution. And when they choose the higher response, reality responds with synchronicity. The right person calls, the right opportunity opens, the right insight arrives. Now, let's tell a story. A healer, call him Soren, spent years doubting his gifts. In 2027, after months of disciplined alignment, his hands began to heat during meditation. When he placed them near his own body, pain eased. He tested it gently with friends. The results were consistent. He realized the gift wasn't new. It was activated by coherence. The more he purified his patterns, resentment, shame, self-doubt, the more the energy flowed. This is how ascension works. You do not force gifts. You become a vessel, and gifts emerge naturally. Yet the body transformation can include symptoms. Waves of fatigue, vivid dreams, emotional purging, changes in appetite. The key is discernment and care. Treat the body as sacred technology. Rest when you need rest. Ground when you feel unsteady. Choose nature often. The nervous system is learning a new language. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be part of this transformational cosmic journey. And as your body learns to hold more light, the collective begins forming something extraordinary. Communities that feel like reunions across lifetimes. When enough individuals stabilize in higher frequency, the new Earth stops being a private spiritual experience and becomes a collective architecture. This is where community returns, not as social performance, but as energetic resonance. Many of you will feel it, the sudden recognition of my people. Conversations that go deep immediately, eyes that feel familiar, the sense that you are reuniting with a family you didn't know you missed. As the Pleiadians transmit, New Earth is not built through domination. It is built through coherence and counsel. Instead of power over structures, communities form around wisdom, service, and transparency. Leadership becomes less about charisma and more about integrity. People begin asking, what serves the whole, rather than what benefits my ego. This doesn't mean perfection. It means a new organizing principle. And it starts small. It starts with local circles, shared resources, healing gatherings, skill exchanges, conscious parenting communities, and creative projects anchored in beauty. In many transmissions, you may envision crystal gardens, clean energy harmonics, educational systems that honor intuition and emotional intelligence, and councils that include elders, healers, builders, and visionaries. These are not fantasies. They are symbolic previews of a civilization aligned with higher values. Let's ground it with an example. Imagine a neighborhood where people meet weekly, not to complain, but to coordinate support. One person grows food, another offers breathwork. Another teaches children, another repairs tools, another creates art that uplifts the field. This is not going backward. This is intelligent resilience aligned with new Earth consciousness. Now, as disclosure expands, there may be increased openness to collaboration with benevolent star cultures, Pleiadian, Arcturian, Sirian frequencies offering guidance through intuition, dreams, and subtle contact. Open contact, if and when it unfolds, requires maturity. It requires emotional stability. It requires ethical clarity. The goal is not spectacle. The goal is evolution. And the most important technology is not external. It is the technology of the heart. When humans learn to hold compassion without losing discernment, when they learn to speak truth without cruelty, when they learn to listen without defensiveness, new Earth becomes inevitable. Here is a short inner practice for community-building frequency. Place attention on the heart. Breathe slowly. Visualize a soft golden field extending 3 meters around you. Set one intention. May my presence reduce fear and increase clarity. Do this before conversations, before meetings, before posting online. Your field becomes a stabilizer. And as these communities anchor, a horizon event approaches. One prophesied not as fear, but as a quantum ignition of consciousness. There is a horizon many sensitives have felt for years, a culmination event often described as a solar flash or photonic pulse, a wave of extremely high-frequency light capable of accelerating awakening in a compressed window. Whether it arrives as one moment or a sequence of moments, the deeper teaching remains. Earth is moving toward a threshold where consciousness changes rapidly. As the Pleiadians transmit, this is not a reward for being spiritual. It is a natural convergence of cosmic cycles, solar dynamics, and collective readiness. The planet, the human nervous system, and the subtle grids are preparing to receive and integrate higher photonic charge. In the highest interpretation, the solar flash is experienced differently based on resonance. For those doing inner work, clearing fear, practicing coherence, living in integrity, it can feel like profound clarity, heart expansion, and the dissolving of old mental prisons. For those clinging tightly to fear-based identity, it may feel disorienting, not as punishment, but as mismatch. Frequency is not moral. Frequency is physics. This is why the real preparation is simple, but not easy. Become coherent. Heal what you can. Release what you know is false. Practice love without becoming naive. Strengthen discernment without becoming cynical. Your state becomes your passport. Now let's speak carefully about sorting without fear. In many mystical teachings, major frequency events result in natural transitions. Some souls may complete their cycle here and continue elsewhere, not as tragedy, but as evolution. Others remain to anchor the new baseline. The key is not to obsess about numbers or timelines. The key is to live the frequency now. If the solar flash marks the ignition of a fifth-dimensional baseline, then the aftermath is not chaos, it is reorientation. Values shift. People become less interested in superficial conflict. The desire for transparency becomes universal. The need for domination fades. Cooperation becomes obvious. And humanity steps closer to a galactic civilization of light, not to escape Earth, but to honor Earth as a beacon. Imagine waking up and feeling in your bones that separation was always an illusion. Imagine communities functioning with empathy and clarity. Imagine children growing up with emotional intelligence, energetic literacy, and cosmic context, knowing they are both human and starborn in essence. That is not fantasy. That is the trajectory of coherence. And this is the final message. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not imagining it. You are responding to a real energetic shift. Every time you choose truth over performance, love over fear, integrity over convenience, you anchor a new world. And if you're still here, still listening, it may be because your soul already knows the next step you must take, and it begins the moment this video ends. If this message impacted your life, leave your like, comment your reflection, and share with others. Each of you is part of this chain of light.